Giddy up, Cowboys, because I'm talking about the lineup preview with one of the top recruiting classes of 2020. So let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans, and welcome to another lineup preview. This week we're talking about the Oklahoma State lineup preview. Now, yes, you did hear me right. This is one of the top recruiting classes in the class of 2020. The team with 8 straight Big 12 titles comes in with some of the most impressive freshmen of 2020. Now, if you're wondering where I'm getting those statistics, you may want to check out my Fanco 50 series, where I'm diving deep into the top 50 incoming freshmen in the class of 2020. And now we get into the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Now, a solid season they had last year, but of course they are losing some guys. One of their most notable losses is Nick Piccinini. Piccinini at 125 pounds is a notable loss, unfortunately, for the Cowboys. But there are a lot of guys incoming that could make some waves for the team. So let's get into each of these guys. And starting at 125 pounds, with Piccinini out, who is coming in for the Cowboys? Well, we have Jason Burks, who is a freshman, likely going to get this starting spot here. He had some of the best accolades in the past, and I think, if Oklahoma State is looking to push out a true freshman, I think this is the road to go at 125 pounds. He's a multiple-time Nebraska state champion, as well as a Fargo finalist. Now, because he is a Fargo finalist, it just shows he's an impressive wrestler, but he only has 5 losses in his high school career. And because of that, we're likely going to see him get that starting spot. Now, it's going to be a tough time filling in for Piccinini, who is has been one of the top guys at 125 pounds for the past few years. The guy that pinned Spencer Lee in the Oklahoma State versus Iowa dual meet. It's going to be tough to do that, but Jason Burks may be the guy to fill in for Piccinini at 25. And that moves us up to 133. And yes, I will be getting into a guy who could be starting at 125 instead in Dayton Fix. That's a very, very real possibility. But the other guys I have here are one, Trevor Mastrogiovanni. Mastrogiovanni is a top 20 recruit in the class of 2020, starting off, with their impressive recruiting class. But he's a 3-time New Jersey state champion, or prep champion out of Blair, was injured last season. The other guy here you have is Reese Whitcraft, who will likely take his redshirt year because he filled in for the spot for Dayton Fix last year at 133 pounds. He had a decent year filling in for Fix. He was 18-10 overall, but it's going to be tough for him. Likely, he even if Fix goes down, I still see him likely going to take that redshirt year. And I'll get to what will happen if Fix moves down to 125 in just a second. Now, the reason he would be moving down to 125 would be because of the Olympic trials, where he wrestles 57 kilos. And at 57 kilos, that's essentially 125 pounds, which he'll be wrestling a couple weeks after the NCAA championship. So if he's going to be down to weight anyways, maybe he may as well wrestle 125 pounds. Now, what would that lineup look like? I'll get to that in a second. But Dayton Fix, of course, if you don't know, what a phenomenal wrestler. Just in his freshman season, making the national finals, unfortunately losing to Nick Soriano. But he beat Austin DeSanto. He did beat Soriano during the year in a crazy match, a crazy match with Luke. He beat Luke Pledger. He beat Austin Gomez and Ethan Lezak. All these guys he beat in his freshman season, and he's just got more coming towards you. Now, whether he thinks 25 or 33 is the best chance to get it done, I don't know. But now let's talk about 141. But before I get into, what would happen if Fix drops down, I want to talk about the Fanco Wrestling Shop. Now, this is a brand new shop that I have on my website. I upgraded all these shirts for better designs and more comfortable apparel. If you click the link below, you'll find hats, shirts, joggers, and more. It's a great way to support the Fanco Wrestling channel so I can keep continuing to make great content. But if you want to, you can check out this shirt that goes great with all of your Oklahoma State gear. This is the Fanco Wrestling black on black long sleeve shirt. This is actually one of my new favorite designs in the store. Goes great with this Oklahoma State hat, which I'll also have linked down in the description below that you can check out yourself. I appreciate you in advance for clicking down on that link and checking that out. And now we get into 141 pounds. And at 141, we have Cade Brock, who's coming into his senior season. Last year, we had Dusty Hone at the weight, who is still here at 141 pounds, and then Caden Gefeller. I mean, this is just one of the most loaded up weights for Oklahoma State, without a doubt. So Gefeller, first I want to talk about him, was injured wrestled a little bit last year, was 5-1, wrestled the scuffle, was not injured. He had a solid redshirt freshman year the year before, but unfortunately at NCAAs, he went 0-2. Now, last year, he had his loss to Woods of Stanford, and we could see him staying at 141 because Brock will drop to 133 if Dayton Fix decides to go down to 25. So let me repeat that. At 125, if Dayton Fix goes there, we're going to see Cade Brock at 33, and then at 41, we're going to see Caden Gefeller. Now, if that is not the lineup, we're probably going to see Cade Brock get the starting position here at 141 pounds. Now, Brock, I mean, what a solid year, or solid career he's had so far. Multiple-time All-American, placed 5th twice at the NCAA championships, was granted a 6th year. Now, with his All-Americans, he actually got those at 133 pounds. So it's going to be a little bit tougher for him now up a weight at 141, but he's had some time to bulk up. I don't think you're going to see a crazy difference. He's still a solid wrestler, no matter what. He injured last season, but the big question here is how healthy is he going to be? How healthy is he going to be in his return to the college circuit? That's the question that we have to ask as we move on to 149 pounds. And at 149 pounds, we have another couple of guys. Manabog and Balmaceda are two top recruits in the class of 2019. Balmaceda is a 4-time Florida state champion and Ironman finalist. And, last year he mostly wins at opens, nothing crazy, no significant wins. But that's why we're likely going to see Boo Llewellyn get this starting spot at 149 pounds. Yet again, he started here last year, a Big 12 champ, and an impressive wrestler for Oklahoma State, for the Pokes. Only losses last year. He was 21-2 overall, and he's coming into his senior season. But his only losses were to Pat Lugo of Iowa, as well as to Brock Mahler of Mizzou. Now, this year he's going to have some strong competition yet again at 149 pounds with Austin O'Connor of UNC, with Mahler yet again, who's going to have to find a way to beat, with Sammy Sasso of Ohio State and Brayton Lee. All these guys are going to be tough. Now, Boo was actually number 1 at one point in the season last year, and once he kind of wrestled a couple more guys, he ended up dropping down a bit, but he enters this season as the number 4 ranked guy at 149 pounds, and I think we're going to see some great things out of Boo this upcoming season. Now, at 157 pounds, this is where we get into Wyatt Sheets is going to be your starter here at 157 pounds. Now, Sheets here is a Big 12 finalist, placed 3rd at the Southern Scuffle last year, so, he is a Southern Scuffle placer. And his best win was over Caleb Young. He had a close loss to David Carr last season, actually, at Big 12. And really, last season was just a huge breakout season for him. He just boomed onto the 2020 scene and just absolutely crushed it. And when I say he crushed it, I mean, he entered the season, I believe he was even unranked, and now he's at the top 10 ranked guy moving into 2020-2021 season. And that's why I think we're going to see some impressive things out of Sheets moving into his senior season. And at 165 pounds, this is where we don't see a senior necessarily, but a sophomore in Travis Whitlake. Now, we also have Luke Serber, who's a top 100 recruit out of Oklahoma. But Whitlake's going to be your starter here. He is a top 10 ranked wrestler right now by Flow Wrestling. And with Whitlake, he is a Big 12 champion last year, placed at the Southern Scuffle. With his losses, he was 28-2 overall. So, another impressive record. But his 2 losses coming to Alex Marinelli and Shane Griffith. So, some tough losses, and he's going to see those guys again this season at 165 pounds, as well as some other guys like Makai Lewis, who's going to be a serious threat at 165, but Travis Whitlake is going to give it his best because, he bumped onto the season last year with a solid start to the season, defeating Nino Bonacorsi in the dual meet, as well as pinning Chris Weiler of Lehigh. Those were some of his 2 best wins of the season, and really got him in a lot of people's spotlight. Like, who is this kid? We got to be watching him. And Whitlake is that guy at 165 pounds. At 174 pounds, with JoJo Smith leaving, that's a big loss, unfortunately, for Oklahoma State. So we have Gavin Stika in here, who had a decent season last year, 16-5 overall. No necessarily huge wins overall. He's been stuck behind Jojo Smith for the most part throughout a lot of his career, but I think he's going to have to hold up his own here at 174 pounds. And another guy who's going to have to hold up for his own, but has done very well in last season, is Anthony Montalvo. Now, I'll get to Montalvo in just a second. First guy I want to talk about is Dustin Plodd, who is a top 10 ranked recruit in the class of 2020. Now, he is a two-time state champion out of Oklahoma and a Fargo finalist. He has high school wins, if you may know a couple of these guys, one being Abe Assad of Iowa. You also may know Patrick Kennedy, who's a recruit going to Iowa. And this is a guy with Plodd. You could see him bumping down to 174, or he's not going to bump up to 97, but you could see him at 74 or 84, depending on where things land. So he's one of the top recruits for Oklahoma, and really for Oklahoma State, and really why they are becoming one of the top recruiting classes in the class of 2020. And then that brings us, of course, to Montalvo. And Montalvo is a guy who's a top 15 ranked wrestler coming into this upcoming season. Placed at the Big 12 tournament last year, qualified for the NCAAs. Unfortunately, those didn't happen, but he had another breakout season, and he's just entering his sophomore year now. And this is just such a weight that is loaded for Oklahoma State, absolutely loaded. And you love to see these weights like this, that any of these guys could start here. But Montalvo is a guy who I think can do very, very well here for Oklahoma State this season. And as we move up to 197 pounds, we get into one of the other top ranked recruits in the class of 2020, in AJ Ferrari, the TikTok star. Maybe you know him from his weightlifting photos on Instagram, but that is AJ Ferrari, who is a multiple time state champion, transferred all around in high school to Blair, to Bergen Catholic, ended up in his home state of Texas. But he is a former Cadet World bronze medalist, a Fargo Ironman Beast of the East champion. And, you could see him take a redshirt year this year. He's likely going to take that redshirt year this year. Maybe bulk up, get up to heavyweight. That's a very real possibility for AJ Ferrari. But for Ferrari, he's not going to be the starter this season, but he's going to be somebody to look out for, whether at 97 pounds or whether at heavyweight, which we've seen guys do in the past. One heavyweight guy we'll mention in a little bit. But the first guy I want to talk about at 197, the next guy is Dakota Gear. Now, Gear placed 5th at the Southern Scuffle last year, was 24-8 overall, and a top 15 ranked guy coming into the 2020 season. Now, he is a former All-American. He actually placed 7th, but he placed 7th at 184 pounds. Now, he faltered off in duels at the end of last season, which was kind of unfortunate for him, but we could see him, maybe he gained some weight in this offseason. He bulked up a bit to 197, and this may be the better weight for him. And I think we're going to have to wait to find out. But at 285 pounds, now in the future, you could see AJ Ferrari here, but, Austin Harris is a guy who bumped up in the past, wrestled here last season, didn't necessarily have the best season, was 5-12 overall, and that's why I think likely at this weight, at 285 pounds, you're going to see Connor Doucette. And Doucette is a 4-time Oklahoma State champion with 172-7 high school record. He was a Fargo placer, and I think likely you're going to see him get this starting spot at 285 pounds. And that is the Oklahoma State lineup. What an exciting lineup. If you're looking for more lineup previews, you can click this link down below. That'll take you there. But if you're looking for more stats on some of the top incoming freshmen in the class of 2020 that I've mentioned multiple times in this video, you're going to want to check out this top series right here. This is something you're really going to enjoy digging into.